Hi everybody, and welcome to Once Upon a Scarf. This channel celebrates the art of the vintage scarf, from luxury silks to bandanas, and takes a deep dive into the wonderful stories they tell. With the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth on September 8th, I thought it would be fitting to do a tribute with one of the greatest commemorative scarves ever designed. Oliver Messel's Coronation and Jubilee scarf, originally of 1953 and reissued in 1977. I find this scarf to be incredibly poignant because it's a fairy tale version of a princess become queen, a dreamy, gossamer take on a role that was more accurately summed up by an iron commitment to lead from the front. I'm the author of 2 classic books on vintage fashion, Secondhand Chic and It's Vintage Darling. I'm a huge fan of the luxury, affordability, and in this case, sheer theatricality of great vintage scarves. I'm so happy to share what I know with you. So with our Oliver Messel Silk Square, we have a tale of 2 scarves. This was originally issued in 1953 to celebrate Queen Elizabeth's coronation. It was produced by Jaeger in concert with Cresta Silks, 2 British firms proud to partake in this great ceremony. Here, in a photo from the Guardian newspaper, we see Cresta worker Brian Nichols in the early 1950s applying gold leaf to the square. These scarves were issued in extremely limited edition, but here we can see the final version in all its gilded glory on a cover of Vogue magazine in 1953. In 1977, to mark the occasion of the Queen's Silver Jubilee, the scarf was reissued, this time with silver leaf painted across the surface. This version was created in far greater numbers. You can see the original packaging here, and currently sells for around the £100 mark in the second-hand market, though you will find versions much higher, and if you're quite lucky, much lower. So on to the details in the scarf itself. We see a border representing the kingdom in flower form, a Tudor rose for England in the lower left, a Scottish thistle in the lower right, Irish shamrocks, one of them 4-leafed for luck. There's a beautiful flowering leek for Wales in the upper right. Her Majesty's crown is in a ravishing silver and pink, itself bordered by the letters ER for Elizabeth Regina, which is Latin for queen. In the upper left is a branch of oak with acorns. This tree has rich symbolism woven into the history and folklore of England. Druids would worship in oak groves, couples would marry under their branches. The UK's largest oak tree stands in the heart of Sherwood Forest, and according to legend, Robin Hood and his merry men would camp under its branches. This veteran tree is thought to be around 1,000 years old, and you can still visit it today. Moving to the central panel, we see a horse-drawn coach of dreams. This is, of course, the Gold State coach, built by George III in a fit of mad splendor in 1760, for an equivalent cost of around $4 million today. The coach has been used at the coronation of every British monarch since George IV. Its age, weight, and lack of maneuverability means it's only taken out for grand state occasions, like coronations, royal weddings, and the jubilees of a monarch, which is of course what we see here. It must be said, though, that our horse must have superpowers, because ordinarily 8 are needed to draw it down the mall. I think it's safe to say there is a high degree of sugar-spun theatricality about this scarf. This design is not about a monarch assuming imperial power with all that pomp and circumstance, but instead about a 27-year-old who we don't even see processing off in her chrysalis through a dreamland garden of a nation. The coach floating without axles, seemingly held together on hope and goodwill. If there's an element of theatricality here, that is surely down to the designer, Oliver Messel. He grew up in privileged circumstances, attending Eton College, and later on being closely connected to Hollywood stars and royalty. Though his name is little known today, he was a towering figure of 20th century design. In World War II, this artistically minded young man found an incredibly apt commission as a camouflage officer disguising gun emplacements around southern England as haystacks, castles, ruins, and roadside cafes. After the war, he turned towards set and costume design, especially for the ballet. Here's his set for Sleeping Beauty, with Margot Fonteyn in the central role. He became one of the foremost stage designers of his time. He won Tonys on Broadway and commissions around the world. His decoration of the lavish suite at the famed Dorchester Hotel became Elizabeth Taylor's favorite place to stay in London. And if your wallet so favors it, you can still do so today. That suite and his stage designs and this scarf were marked by generous doses of Rococo curlicues, slender columns, cameo colors, drapery swags, and an overall cobwebby wispiness. In short, a fairy tale vision come to life. But there's a plot twist here, unexpected and even more magical than the original conception. I think it's fair to say that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth in fact turned out to be less an untested young woman hidden within the gilded pumpkin of royal regalia, and more like the magical steed that single-handedly draws this carriage. The nation rested on her shoulders and was drawn through uncertainty into the future. Its roses and shamrocks and thistles and allium flowers still united. Her role was performed with pride and duty and insane stamina, and perhaps a touch of loneliness, but above all, unfailing grace. May Queen Elizabeth rest in peace. It was a privilege to have lived through her reign. And that's today's scarf story. I hope you enjoyed it. Please press the usual buttons if you'd like to see more.